Hey, this is Rob Math. Welcome to the Queen tutorial for Helix. Let's take a look at the gear Brian May would have used. Brian's touring rig consists of a wall of Vox AC30s on the normal channel. For effects, he uses a Waz tone filter, a Dallas Rangemaster treble booster, a phaser, and 2 delays. The guitar Brian May is mostly associated with is his homemade Red Special. The Red Special features 3 single coil pickups with series and phase switches, which allows for a wide range of tones. Brian primarily uses the bridge and middle pickups together, which gives a sound similar to a humbucker. For this video, I'll be using a Strat-style guitar with a humbucker in the bridge. You can also use a Variax to model his guitar. Select the input block and go to page 2. Move the Variax setting to per preset. Then change the preset Variax model to R-Billy2. We don't need to alter the tunings for the majority of Queen songs, but if you need to play a song like Fat Bottom Girls in Drop D, you can alter the tuning by going to the 3rd page of the input menu. Now that we have the guitar sussed out, let's take a look at the amp situation. We're going to use the AC30 Fawn normal amp model with the matching 212 blue cab for the main tone. I'm going to start by bringing up my drive, bass, and treble to full. I'll leave the cut control at 0 and adjust the presence up to about 8. Jumping over to the 2nd page, I'm going to turn up the sag to about 8 and the bias and master to full. Set the mic to a 57 with the distance set about 4 inches back. Now that we have our basic tone, let's take a look at the effects we can add. Let's start by adding a booster in front of the amp. We're going to choose the Minotaur in the distortion category. Let's bring the gain almost to full and drop the tone a bit. To simulate the sound of the treble booster, we'll also add an EQ. Let's add this before the Minotaur. Choose Simple EQ. Go ahead and leave the low gain at 0, move the mid frequency to 705 Hz, boost the mid gain and high gain, and set the level. Next, let's add a stereo chorus to fatten up the tone. Move to the next open block after the amp and choose the stereo chorus from the modulation category. To add a more polished studio sound, let's create a parallel path and put the chorus on path 1B. First, lift the chorus by hitting the action button, and then drop it down to the newly created path 1B with the joystick. Set the speed to tempo-based by pushing down on knob 1, then turning to the whole note value. Set the depth to half and the spread all the way up. For the wave shape, choose random. Adjust the pre-delay to 1.0 and keep the tone in the middle. To finish things off, let's go ahead and add some room reverb. Move to the next open block after the chorus on path 1B and choose the room reverb. Let's drop the decay and pre-delay, drop the mix slightly, and hear what that sounds like. Now that we've dialed in the main components of our sound, let's take a look at other effects and items we can add in. I'm going to add a volume pedal in the first open slot. Brian was also a big fan of the wah pedal as a filter, so we'll throw in a weeper in the next slot. Next, let's add the phaser that Brian used on songs like Bohemian Rhapsody. Choose the script mod phase block and change the rate to tempo-based by pushing down on knob 1, then turning to the whole note value, then drop the mix a bit. We can assign the tempo of the preset so that the time-based effects fit the tempo of the song. You can do this by touching the tap tempo on foot switch 12 and adjusting knob 6 to 120 BPM. Before adding any more effects, let's move the split point on path 1A to the end. Click on the split point directly after the amp. Hit the action button to lift the split point and then use the joystick to move it to the end of the path 1A. Let's add the twin delays Brian uses to create 3-part harmonies, as heard in songs like Brighton Rock. Choose transistor tape in the next open block after the amp on path 1A. Set the time to 800 milliseconds. Then bring the feedback almost all the way down and bring up the mix and headroom a bit. Now let's add the second delay. Choose transistor tape in the next open block after the first delay. This time, set the time to 1.6 seconds. Drop the feedback and raise the mix just a bit. Let's also add an input gate at the very beginning of the signal chain. I usually set the threshold between 60 to 70 dB and the decay around 100 milliseconds. Now that we have all of our effects in place, let's look at how to assign them to the foot switches. Starting off, I'm going to select FS6, which will send us over to stomp mode. Starting from the beginning of our signal chain, you'll note that the volume pedal is already assigned to expression pedal 2 and the wah is on expression pedal 1. Moving to the right, we'll see the simple EQ, which I want to assign to foot switch 2. Lightly touch the foot switch, then confirm the selection by selecting OK on knob 6. Following the same procedure as before, I'll assign the Minotaur to foot switch 8 and the script mod phaser to foot switch 9. I'm not concerned with assigning the amp to a foot switch, but I will assign the chorus to foot switch 3, the delay to foot switch 4, the second delay to foot switch 10, and the reverb to foot switch 11. So that brings us to the end of the Brian May tone tutorial. Keep in mind that lots of things affect your sound, so just use this preset as a jumping off point to dial in your tone, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.